So this is the crawl video for the next in our 3 primary grace notes. Our first one was high G. Our next grace note is going to be D, as in dog. It is our pointer finger of the bottom hand. Again, it's a grace note, so our rules of thumb apply here. You're just going to move the one finger. You're not going to play an actual D, you'll just move one finger. You're also going to move it quickly, relaxed. We're not aiming for tension here. We're not trying to really crush the channel or crush the grace notes, as some pipers will say. And since it's a grace note, it still exists above the melody note. So if you're kind of thinking ahead, our D grace note scale is going to be very short. It is low G, low A, B, and then C. And that's the whole scale. You can't decorate a D with a D. And then above D, the grace note is no longer a grace note because it's below the melody note. So again, our scale is just low A, low G, low A, B, C, and then back down. What this also means is we don't have to deal with a hand-to-hand transition with D grace notes. So a lot of people find D grace notes quite a bit easier than G grace notes. G grace notes will be used primarily to mark downbeats, well, not always, but primarily. D grace notes often either follow G grace notes or are used on upbeats. So if you're thinking downbeats are quarter notes, the and, or the eighth note between the quarter notes, would be decorated with a D grace note. There's kind of a rhyme and a reason to what grace note goes where. D grace notes, you'll notice, have a little bit less of a kind of attack or a punch to them, but as you're learning subsequent grace notes from your G grace note, you want to keep all of them relatively kind of texturally the same. And by that I mean, you don't want really clean, crisp, quick G grace notes and then your D grace notes are really loose and floppy. You want to keep them kind of a similar nature. A D grace note is going to sound and look like this. Again, you can use the D grace note to separate two of the same note or to break one note apart into two. You can also use it to decorate or embellish or add emphasis to a note change. So the D grace note scale would fall under the note change category. Be mindful that you're getting the D grace note exactly on the change of notes. You're not getting something that sounds like this. We want to be really kind of methodical and purposeful with this. But because the scale is so short, you're probably already thinking through what's going to be involved. Low G to low A, you're just going to open up the grace note and then close the grace note to the low A. Low A to B, you're going to open up the grace note, you're going to close the grace note to B. B to C is a little funny, it'll feel a little funny, but it's the exact same rules. You're going to open up the grace note and then get ready, play the C. So open up the grace note, get ready to play C, close the grace note. It just feels funny for the exact same reason that E to F felt funny with G grace notes. Everything's right on top of each other, but it's the same rules, same process, same steps. From C to B, it is just like B to C in reverse. So you're going to open the grace note, you're ready to play B, close the grace note. B low A, pretty straightforward. You open the grace note, close everything together. Low A to low G, open the grace note, close together. It'll look and sound like this. Be very mindful through this process, since it's so bottom hand focused, that you're being careful with what you're doing with your pinky. You want to be pinky up when it's appropriate, pinky down when it's appropriate. A lot of players find if there is kind of a sticking point with the scale, it's the pinky.